friends, so in this video I'm starting to make a card using a piece of Whisper White cardstock and some scrap pieces from my Pop of Pink Designer Series paper. All the measurements are going to be listed on my blog. Now here I'm just covering the piece of Whisper White paper using the multi-purpose liquid glue. You could use any kind of glue that you have. So I'm just covering the whole piece. And once that's all done, I'm going to take some pieces of Designer Series paper that I've just trimmed. These are just leftovers from cutting up my cardstock. So you can actually use Designer Series paper, pieces of cardstock, whatever you have for this technique. It's really a great way to use up your scrap pieces. So once you've got your first couple of pieces placed down, they're going to be your guidelines for where to put the next pieces after that. And there's not a right or wrong way to do this. All I'm doing is just filling in the areas, crisscrossing, top and bottom with the scrap pieces of paper. And you want to make sure that you do line them up nice and flush. You don't want any gaps of that base paper coming in between your Designer Series paper. So because it's the first card that I've been making like this in today's project, I'm going to have lots of long pieces of Designer Series paper, but as you're going to see as we go along in this video, I'm going to be trimming off the edge and I'm going to have lots of different sizes to play with for my next card. So I'm actually going to get quite a few cards out of these strips of Designer Series paper. So all I'm going to do is just keep filling in the spaces with the strips of Designer Series paper until it's pretty much all filled in, and then I'm going to just trim off the edges. Okay, now I've pretty much got all my strips. You can see there's a couple places that I don't have any Designer Series paper on, but that's because I want to use some smaller pieces. So I'm flipping my card over and I'm just taking my paper snips and just trimming those tails off of my card. And then I'm going to use those strips to fill in those few little gaps that I have left. So there's my card base all done, and I'm just going to trim it up and mount it onto some basic black cardstock. And once again, I'll have all the measurements on my June 20th blog post at www.serenestamper.com. So now I'm just taking my Whisper White card base. This card base measures 5.5 by 4.25 when folded, and I'm just going to glue this on. And the reason why I just flipped it is because I wanted my hearts going in the right direction. So I've got it positioned on the center of my card, and next I'm just going to be putting on my sentiment. So I'm going to emboss my sentiment, so I'm rubbing my basic black cardstock with my embossing buddy, which removes any static, and I'm using the sentiment from You've Got This stamp set from Stampin' Up. And I'm just inking up my stamp with my first mark, inking it and stamping it onto my basic black, and then I'm going to sprinkle on the white embossing powder. And then once I've covered my sentiment, of course, I'll shake off the excess and set it with my heat tool. Okay, so once I've finished setting my embossing powder with the heat tool, I then took the layering square framelits, which are fabulous. They're new from Stampin' Up. Those are the two sizes I used. And I cut out a scrap Whisper White cardstock, and then I also trimmed my sentiment that is on the basic black. Now for the next step, I'm taking my Happy Heart embossing folder, and I'm going to ink it up with the Melon Mambo. This is the same color that's in the Pop of Pink Designer Series paper that we used. So I'm inking the raised side of the embossing folder. And now I'm setting down my piece of Whisper White, just kind of lining it up with the hearts, and carefully closing the top portion of the folder, and I'm just giving a little rub, giving it a little love. Basically, I'm using my embossing folder as a stamp. How cool is that? And if you inked the opposite side, you'd get a whole different look. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so now this next step, I'm just taking a sponge and I'm going to sponge the edges with the Melon Mambo. Really adds a nice clean touch. And now it's time to finish the card. So I'm taking my liquid glue again, just putting a little bit on the back of my Whisper White piece, and I'm going to put that on the front of my card. And I know when I put the black square on top of this, it's going to hide a lot of the hearts, but I don't mind that because I'm still going to have, some of those curves and stuff showing up in the background, so it's still going to look really nice. I'm just adding a few Stampin' Dimensionals to pop up the black piece. So this is yet another scrap piece that I had lying on my table. I cut this out earlier using the Sweet and Sassy Framelits, also new from Stampin' Up. There's 15 dies in this set, so it's awesome. And I had just stamped it with Timeless Textures, I do believe is what I used, and I also used my Melon Mambo. So quite often I'll have extra hearts and shapes and things, and I just tuck them into a bag and then I just pull them out when I need them, such as on this card. So using some basic black baker's twine, I'm just tying a little bow, and I'm going to adhere that with a glue dot, put it on the center of my heart, and add a couple rhinestones, and the card will be complete. So there's my card. I hope you enjoyed it. Give this technique a try. It is really so much fun. Thanks for watching. As always, I appreciate you. Happy stamping.